Why is Artemis 4 going to land astronauts near the south pole of the moon in 2028? That's because even though the moon is a floating ball of rock with no atmosphere out in the middle of space, it gets very, very hot during the day. For that reason, most of the Apollo missions only stayed on the moon for about 24 hours. Artemis 4, on the other hand, plans to have its astronauts on the lunar surface for about a week. But those numbers that I gave you are all in Earth time. The moon actually has its own minutes, hours, and days. For any celestial body, a day is the length of time it takes to get from one sunrise to the next sunrise, whereas a year is how long it takes for it to go around its star once. And so a year on the moon is the same as a year on the Earth. A day on the moon, though, takes 29.5 Earth days. That's the amount of time it takes for the moon to go through all of its phases. If we say that a lunar hour is also 1/24th of a lunar day, then one lunar hour is about 30 Earth hours. Because those units of time are so long, all of the Apollo astronauts and probably anybody else who goes to the moon just uses Earth time instead. It's still very important, though, to know what part of the day on the moon it is, because the temperature of the surface of the moon ranges from negative 400 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle of the night to 250 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle of the day. To avoid the extreme heat of the later day, the Apollo missions all landed in the early lunar morning. The Artemis missions, though, are going to stay so long that it's going to get pretty hot, which is a problem. The moon doesn't have an atmosphere at all. The rocks on the surface of the moon are just absorbing sunlight and getting hotter throughout the day. If you've ever felt a hot pavement, you know that it can get a lot hotter than the surrounding air. But because the moon has no atmosphere, traditional air conditioning methods don't work on the moon, so the only way to get rid of heat is to radiate it away, which is a very inefficient means of getting rid of heat. If the Apollo astronauts hadn't have left the moon's surface before it got incredibly hot, they would have literally baked inside of the LEM. So how's the Artemis mission going to deal with that? Well, it's easy. They're going to land at the south pole of the moon. Just like the Arctic or Antarctic on Earth, the lunar poles don't get as direct of sunlight as the rest of the moon, and so they don't get as hot. The Indian Chandrayaan-3 probe that landed on the south pole of the moon in 2019 confirmed that, measuring that the peak temperature at its landing site was only about 177 degrees Fahrenheit, which is manageable. On top of not receiving direct sunlight, there are also parts of the lunar poles that receive no sunlight. The bottoms of some craters near the lunar poles have been in constant shadow thanks to the rims of those craters, which means that in those permanently dark sections of the lunar surface, there might be frozen liquid water, also known as ice. Ice can't exist anywhere else on the lunar surface because if sunlight hits it, it gets to 250 degrees Fahrenheit and turns into steam, which just float off into the vacuum of space, never to be seen again. Water is a crucial element for any long-term moon mission. Not only because we need it to survive, but because water made out of oxygen and hydrogen can be turned easily into rocket fuel. If you like this video, you can help me out a lot by sharing it and commenting what you think about the Artemis missions, and if you're excited for Artemis 4 to put humans on the moon for the first time in over half a decade, I mean century, again.